fellow artists. Well, if you didn't notice the other night, our live feed didn't work. We had some internet issues and some things crashed on us. The event was great. We had tons and tons of artists come to the campus theater and lots of really great content. We were really excited to get to meet all of you guys. But for those of you guys that missed it because you weren't able to tune in online, there was a backup feed that we had. And so we went ahead and put that together and sent that out to everybody. There was, we missed a little at the end, so you didn't get, to hear our closing song, and you missed the openings up and things like that. But you came in right when we were introducing the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is really when everything started to get started. So you can check out this little quick at-home video, pretty much. Now it's a lot of information, so we've divided everything up. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see some annotations pop up. Make sure you click the section. Well, you can watch the whole thing, or you can click the section on the video that you would like to see. So thank you all so much for being a part of the DentonRadio.com Artist Gathering, and we appreciate y'all being with us. Thank you so much, guys.
Wonderful partnership, and we're very, very excited. I am going to share a quick story. Our Vice President, Kim Phillips, had this wonderful idea at one point about, her idea was to have an online website where we could place all of this cool Denton music, and that way we could share it with the world. And we really tried because the Convention and Visitor Bureau couldn't really take that job and that task on. We're a staff of 3-4 people right now. And so it was really difficult for us to take that task on. We really tried hard to get it going, and we couldn't. All of a sudden, we meet this young man, this Chuckles, that just brought all this energy with him. And all of a sudden, our vice president had this entire new excitement. That idea that she had thought of a while back without them ever knowing and crossing paths, Jake took, and with Bone Doggy and Pat has helped it flourish and helped it grow. So you guys, I just want you to know that your success is our success. So we are really excited to be a partner with Denton Radio, and we definitely are looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys succeed and many more artists join DentonRadio.com.
Thank you, Veronica. They really are a cool organization, and you hear Bureau, like she said, and you go, oh, Bureau. But I'm going to tell you what, I've gotten to be with these guys now for almost a year. The Convention and Visitors Bureau parties, man. Like, you got the Chamber of Commerce, and you got this, and you got that, but everybody knows if you want to have a good time, you call the CVB, all right? They are the people to hang with, all right? So they really are an amazing organization that have been great folks to work with. One final note, really quick, as you can see over here, if you want to tweet or Facebook or anything that you're here, we do have the hashtag Artist Gathering, so make sure you add that on there so everybody can kind of connect with what everybody else is saying. Now, we're going to finally dive into some of this stuff. We like to talk really quick all the time, anytime we get an opportunity, about our licensing and our registration process and all those kinds of things. At the last Artist Gathering, we said we would never, ever, 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 ever have online registration. We'll never do it. And I'm here to say that just a few months later, we now have online registration on DentonRadio.com. So we actually found a really great organization called EchoSign. We've been able to partner with them, and they've been able to integrate into our website where people are able to still register and put their music online without having to physically go through the process of coming to see us or printing things off and scanning them or doing that kind of stuff. And so registration has actually just skyrocketed through the roof. The other day in August, I believe, we got our 150th act signed up for DentonRadio.com, and that was really exciting. So a lot of the time people ask us, okay, why is there a registration process with DentonRadio.com? Can't you just take my music and put it on there? Well, we can't just take it and put it on there. There's these organizations, performance rights groups, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, you're probably familiar with them. And they're great organizations, and their whole deal is getting you paid. The problem is that for local musicians, is the way those systems typically work is every time a song is played, it's tracked, and there's fractions of cents or cents every time a song is played. So if you're played on radio station after radio station after radio station across across the country millions of times, that adds up to some money over time. So Rihanna and Brad Paisley and these kinds of guys, they're getting money out of it. However, if we were to pay for a license with ASCAP or things like that, none of that money would go to you guys, it would go to Rihanna or Brad Paisley. You know, most of the people in here probably haven't seen a check from ASCAP. Maybe they've seen one for 16 cents, you know, something like that. And so we said, well, if it's not going to go to our artists, why would we spend that money? We'd rather put that into other programs that benefit the artists even more. So we said, well, forget the licensing thing. And then just the other day, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and we were saying this very conversation, and we were going, oh, 16 cents for ASCAP, and that thing's ridiculous, and why would you ever go do that? And then he tells me, oh, yeah, well, I signed up with ASCAP, and then I sold my music to a movie, and I get huge royalties every month. And I went, oh, shoot, okay. So that's a good thing. And we said, we got to make sure there's a process where our artists can still be with ASCAP, but to where we can play them, because us paying that license the money's not going to go to them. Let's put it into something else that's going to be beneficial to the artist, but we still want them to be able to be with ASCAP. So we said, okay, we'll have a registration process where the artists are able to go in there, give us permission to play the tunes, and now we can spin them and do the whole deal. The added benefit of that is that it takes the barriers off of what we're able to do, and we've got an opportunity that no other radio station in the world has, is we can now play DentonRadio.com all over the place, and we don't have to worry about the licensing, and neither do the other organizations. So if the city calls us and says we want to do a festival, or we want to do this or that, or whatever, the only people they can call to provide music without having to pay for a whole licensing thing is DentonRadio.com. So we get to take your music and put it all over the place. I'll give you an example really quick. Up until a couple of weeks ago, they put a new Halloween graphic up right before I wanted to give this presentation. But this used to be Best Western's banner graphic on Facebook. If you can see in the top left corner here, maybe you can, maybe you can't. It says powered by DentonRadio.com. That means when you go in to the Best Western here in Denton, the music in the lobby is DentonRadio.com. And when you call Best Western and they put you on hold, the music you hear is DentonRadio.com, and it tells you this is local music that you can hear when you come here. And they call me all the time saying, oh my gosh, we had another one that heard the online stuff or heard the on-hold stuff, and then they called us and said, oh my gosh, this is really cool. You mean I can see these people when I come to Denton, and these are the folks that are going to be in the local music scene while I'm there? That's really cool. And so we've been able to do that in several more organizations, and you're going to see a lot more of that moving into the future. So that's why the registration process is the way that it is. People look at it and go, wait a second, paperwork. And we go, no, we're like that. We're just trying to take these barriers off of the licensing stuff so that we can play your music in more places and get more followers to you guys. And so that's why it's set up the way that it's set up. So we want to make sure we always cover that. The next thing that we wanted to make sure we covered is something kind of fun that we're really excited about. This is the #1 most requested thing with DentonRadio.com. Every time we put it on an inquiry, every time we have a group like this, anytime somebody fills out a survey, the #1 thing everybody always wants is a DentonRadio.com app. It's what they always ask for. Okay, so we put our heads together and we worked with some different organizations and we worked with a couple of different people, and then we finally decided, you know what, we can't do this through companies. We need to find some local Denton developers. And I think he just might have, no, that's not him. I can't see from up here. I just saw a bald guy. No, when he comes up, I'm gonna show him off. But we found a local Denton developer. His name is David Meyer, and he has now created the DentonRadio.com app. Yeah! Now, the app there's one hiccup on iTunes. It's still in review. We submitted it a long time ago, but Apple wants blood, and they want your birth certificate, and they want all this stuff to get the app ready to go. And then once it's in review, they go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And they were like, oh, hey, this graphic screenshot is a couple of pixels off. You need to redo it. And then that's another 3-day delay and all this stuff. So it's in review right now. It should be finished within the next day or so. But the Android app is ready and available, so anybody that has an Android, feel free to go download that sucker. It's free and very easy to use. So we'll go through a couple of the features really quick. If you click the logo, see there's lots of bells and whistles on DentonRadio.com, lots of content, but we said we want to create a player app that just focuses on the music, something you can turn on the phone that you don't have to look at. You select your genre, you stick it in your car, and then you leave it alone. And so we created the logo. When you hit it, it'll take you to the website if you want further content. But as for the rest of this is just music. It's got links to our social media and the website, but other than that, that's it. And so you've got your genre list, the main Americana, rock out, easy listening, girl power. You click those, and then it's got a name display accurate to the second. The name display we use is one of the best name displays on the market, and it's terrible. It's accurate to the 30 to 60 seconds. So you could hear this really sweet, lovely, feminine voice, and it will say Bone Doggy's Little Bar in Texas. You know, it was just ridiculous. We hated it. So we said we're never using this again if we can. And 2 weeks ago, a new name display program came out that's brilliant, and we integrated that sucker as fast as we could into this app. So we've got an accurate to the second name display. Also, this is, and this is stupid to be this excited about it, but I'm really excited about it. We grabbed some of the best tools out there on the internet to integrate them into Denton Radio, some of the best online radio tools. The problem is when you grab multiple tools from different platforms, they don't always sync together, and there's no loading function. There's nothing that tells you loading or buffering because there's 5 different programs running. So some people are going onto their computer and they're hitting the music and nothing's happening for a few seconds. So they think something's broken and they just turn it off. Or they'll send me an email and they'll be like, something's wrong with this thing. And I'm like, well, what kind of computer are you using? They're like, well, I'm using Windows 95. And I'm like, what? Are you serious? And they're like, yeah, I got a gerbil that runs in a wheel, and that's what powers the thing, and that's how it goes, you know? And I'm like, seriously? It's not going to work that fast on your computer. You got to wait a second, but there's no buffer program to tell you, be patient. You know, so people are going, oh, I got the latest technology, man. I got a 97. I got it at a flea market for $15. It was steel. The guy didn't know what he had. And I'm like, it's not going to work that fast on a 97. If it's a box, just throw it out, okay? It's not gonna happen. So we have now a loading function for the app. The app works much faster than the website because there's far less content for it to have to go through, and it's much easier to navigate, and the thing stays on while you're going into your other things and stuff like that until you hit the stop music button so you can get into the app and then go do other stuff. So we're really, really excited about it. Super, super stoked. Yes, sir. Well, we've got the profile pages, but that is the eventual deal. What we want to do, now that we've got these local developers working with us, the next step in the app is when the name displays, so does their profile page. Because we have the artist profile pages, we want it to, when the song plays, here's the profile page, and that's the way it'll go. Similar to what you see on Pandora. But we've got to kind of go back to the drawing board and rebuild it from scratch. So this is version 1, and in the future, you're going to see a lot more interactivity between y'all's content and the song rather than just the name. But that's going to be a step-by-step process. So this is kind of our stake in the ground to say we needed better technology. So this is our claim that we are going to do far better stuff than this, and this is the beginning step to get into that direction. Thank you for the question, by the way. All right, so we've got the app. We're excited about that one. Last thing we're going to talk about with Denton Radio is we've become a lot more than just a radio station. We started the online radio station, then we did a couple of shows to promote it, and then with some more venues called us and said, well, we want to do some more shows, and we want to do this and this. And pretty soon we looked up and we're doing more shows and more events and putting on more stuff like this and hooking up artists with new band members and putting together this and this and this and giving critiques and doing all this stuff rather than just radio. Which is not a bad thing at all. We loved it. But we were putting all this stuff together, and we're getting some artists in positions where they can get their foot inside of a paying venue. We're getting some artists paid a little bit, and we're getting some artists paid a lot. And so in the last few months, we've put over 100 live events together. And of those live events, almost everybody got paid, because that's kind of our creed, is even if it's just a little, we're trying to get more money out of these venues so that we can get it in their heads, you're going to have to pay these guys when they show up. And so we can't take a cut on that. If a venue pays $75 to a band, what are we supposed to do? Take 50, take 25? I mean, it's just not, that's nuts. And so we want to make sure the money goes to you guys, not to us. All right? But so we put together hundreds of events, and we're running ourselves ragged and nothing's coming in. And we said, you know what, we need to be doing more, we need to be doing better, we want to continue to grow as an organization to be able to take on more artists, to be able to take on more projects and do more things for the community. But to do that, it's going to take some money. So how are we going to do that? And so we really put our heads together and said, okay, what are we good at, what can we do? And I was having a conversation the other day with Seth Godin. And those of you that know me or those of you that know Seth Godin just went, what? They did. I saw him do it. And Seth Godin is a really amazing marketing mind. He's got the number 12 most popular blog in the world. He's got the number 1 most popular business blog in the world. He's got 1 million best-selling books. He created a website, many websites, but one of them is called Squidoo. It's one of the top 100 most visited websites in the world. He is just an amazing, amazing marketing mind, and I love him. If I could put a statue of Seth Godin in my house and it would be socially acceptable, I'd do it. All right. And so one of Seth Godin's things is if you email him and he's got time, he'll answer you. And I emailed him and he responded, and I was like, no way. And so we're talking about DentonRadio.com, and I'm geeking out, and I'm like, I love you, Mr. Godin. And we're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I said, you know, here's the thing. We do this advertising, and the advertising's fun, and it, you know, and it helps us pay for our operational costs and stuff like that. But if we're really going to look at our books and say, okay, what's going to carry us into the future? It's not going to be advertising. We've got to look at something else. And I'm telling Seth Godin this, and he said, I completely agree. That's not a good cornerstone for your business. What else can you do? And he said, what's the equity of your organization? And I said, the equity of our organization is our ability to work one-on-one with these local artists. Our equity is the fact that we can look out into this room and know most of the names of everybody sitting here. And if we don't know your name, we're going to work daggum hard to make sure we learn it. And we get this good one-on-one, high-touch relationship with a lot of different artists. That's the equity of DentonRadio.com, that we can call people on their personal phone, say, we got a gig, or we got somebody that needs to put a band together, or we got this, or we got this, or we got this. And if somebody's hurting, we know it, and we're going to try and step in and fix it. And if somebody needs this, we're going to try and step in and do what we can. And I'm talking to Seth Godin about this, and he says, well, here's the deal, Jake. You know what you have? You have a club, and a club requires dues. And then he said, I wish you luck. Thank you very much. And he signs off. And I said, God, I don't want to charge anybody dues. Ugh, I hate the concept of dues. I'm a part of a lot of organizations where I have to pay dues, and I've got to pay you money to be your friend. It's just, it makes me itch, and I hate it. I would never make anybody pay dues for anything. At least I say that. Now, I'm certainly not charging anybody dues, so nobody worry about that kind of stuff. Plus, I'm talking to a big room full of very creative artists. I couldn't charge much. All right? And so, you know, so we looked at it. No offense, I'm broke too. But we looked at it and we said, okay, what can we do? What can we do with the people in this room that can make some more money for Denton Radio so we can do more things to lift up even higher the artists that are here? And we really thought on it and really thought on it and we really thought on it. And we said, you know what? What if we did a show? What if we did one show on a regular basis, a big knockdown, dropout, big, awesome show? And where we had food and we had a great venue and there was alcohol there and we got amazing heavy-hitting bands and we charge a good aggressive cover, good competitive cover, but aggressive cover. And the cover went to DentonRadio.com once on a regular basis. And this one show would allow us to do all the other hundreds of shows that we're able to do. And it gets this reputation around town as the show everybody's got to go to because this is the big dog daddy. And we call in the heavy hitters, and we call in the people that are going to be drawing some crowds, and we do some big, cool stuff, and we do this one show. And I started thinking, man, that might be really, really fun. And that could be a really great cornerstone for DentonRadio.com to put on these big shows. Put on big shows that are going to draw big crowds that the musicians would love playing at anyways, and see what we can put together, and see if we can make a little bit more money to keep doing more stuff for them. And that was our goal. And we started putting our heads together to put something together like that. We've already started grabbing venues. Dan Silverleaf has already given us a date in January to put together the first one. And we're continuously grabbing venues and grabbing folk and doing these kinds of things. Now, some of you in here, we're able to work with very, very closely because you don't have a big following. And so we're trying to help you grow a big following. Some of you in here just hang out with us because you like us, but you really don't need us because you got a big following. And so those big following people, those are the ones we're calling. But those are the ones we might not even work with all that much. And so the question is, why in the world should you go do a show with DentonRadio.com? Because really, they're not going to be mandatory. If we call you and you say no, no, that's fine. We're not taking your music off the air. We're not requiring this of anybody. If somebody says no, we perfectly understand. But why would a heavy hitter come and do us? Well, the concept and really the theme of the whole thing today is rising tide floats all ships. What's good for one of us is good for all of us. There's a very high-end coffee shop in London called Proof Rock. Makes Starbucks look like garbage, all right? And Proof Rock has this amazing little program. You know when they give you a punch card and you punch it 10 times and they give you a free cup of coffee? You know, you've come in there 10 times, you buy 10 cups, now you get one free. Well, Proof Rock gives you a little punch card that if you bring it to all 8 of his best competitors and get a cup of coffee from them, then Proof Rock will give you a free cup of coffee. And everybody went, why in the world would you do this? That's nuts. And the thing was, Proof Rock, this was a head nod to the coffee community. Because the people who are really high-end, very refined, love their coffee people, that's relatively rare. So Proof Rock was saying, if I can get people to not just come to my coffee shop, but to become coffee people, that is going to raise everybody's sales. That's going to raise my sales through the roof, and they did. Because he created coffee people. And that's what Denton needs. Is Denton doesn't need a few fans here and there and here and there. Denton needs to become full of music people. Similar to Austin. When you go to Austin, everybody goes to 6th Street. They don't know who's playing. They don't care who's playing. They just know there's music on 6th Street. Everybody in Austin knows about 6th Street, and they're all going to go hang out on 6th Street. That's just what it is. They're music people. Denton doesn't necessarily have that yet. But if we can all work together, putting all of our things together to try and draw more attention into this music scene, whether it directly benefits you or not, doing these shows is going to indirectly affect all of us. And that's my hope, is that if we can all kind of unite together in these things, rising tide can float all ships, and we can raise the entire musical community. And that's really the goal, and honestly, the theme of everything today. So those are the things I wanted to catch everybody up on what's going on with DentonRadio.com. Now kind of comes the education part, and we wanted to get in and go deep into your musical careers. You know, the music industry is very different from how it used to be. You know, you used to play in as many places as you could, and the hope was you were going to get discovered, and somebody's going to give you a record deal, and they were going to take you off, and you're going to be rich, famous, and that was the whole deal. Now it's a little bit different. The internet has put unlimited power in the hands of every single person in here. Before, you had to be a record label in order to reach millions. Now, you just have to have a laptop. And you can reach millions and millions of people, and you have the opportunity to change anybody and everybody and reach anybody you want to. And so the music industry is not dead, it's redefining itself. And it's becoming far more indie, and it's becoming far more in your hands. And so it's not just about the music anymore, it's about the other things too. It's about the business, it's about the marketing, it's about the getting your own gigs, it's about those kinds of things. And you may say, well, I still want to be discovered, I still want to get a record deal. That's fine. But the way they're going to give you a record deal is a record company's going to look at your Facebook and Twitter followers and the kind of following you've created for yourself and say, okay, this is working, this is not. This person doesn't have a big following, this person does, I'm going to pour money into this one. So whether your goal is to create your own career or to get discovered, you're still going to have to get yourself from A to B at some point. So those are the kind of tools we wanted to put into everybody today. And see, and maybe you disagree with every word. Maybe you look on the panel that we got going on later and you go, why in the world am I listening to these people? And you hate everything I say and everything Pat says and all this stuff. That's fine. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. The point is, we want to kind of tickle that part of the brain that makes you think, you know, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could try and market myself this way, or I could do this or that or this or that. Yeah, that might work. That might work. And just kind of get you thinking on that level, because what often happens is you say to a musician, go work on your music, and they think practice. Well, the thing is, you guys are a very talented room of musicians. You are already very, very talented. Not that you shouldn't practice, but go work on your music doesn't just mean practice. It means go work on all of the areas of music. So, I have 10 minutes to very quickly talk about music and business. That's the subject I'm going to talk about. Pat's going to talk about music and marketing. Kevin's going to talk about programs that the city's putting together. And then we've got a panel that's going to talk about some amazing, amazing things that they experienced in their musical careers. We will take a break before the panel, so you don't have to sit here the whole time. So I asked myself, can I talk about something very significant, something really paradigm changing, something amazing about business in 10 minutes? No. There's no way I'm going to be able to affect anybody's sense of business in 10 minutes. But if I had to pick 3 things, I wanted to pick these 3. Okay, so the first one I wanted to pick was constantly be growing yourself. Constantly be expanding your ability as a musician, as a person, and as a business person. One of my greatest, most favorite things to do, and one of the things that has benefited DentonRadio.com more than anything, is books. Constantly devouring business books. Now, you hear books, and you go, 97% of people after high school will never read another book the day in their lives. And I hate reading. And I hated textbooks. But I love some of the business books that are written because they're written very, very well. They're very entertaining and they're great. But I hate reading too, so I listen to audiobooks. They're very fun. I enjoy it a lot. I stick it in the car when I'm driving someplace. I bank 20 minutes away from my house, and everybody's like, why are you still banking with those people? Because I need time to read, okay? That's... Maybe it's stupid. I don't care. Jesus loves me. Get over it. All right. So I, devouring those things. So on Facebook and Twitter, before this thing got started, I posted a list of books that I love, that I think are very, very applicable to music and to music business. And so I posted those on Facebook and Twitter. And I posted links to them on Amazon, and I posted links to them on a program called Audible. And Audible is an audiobook thing where you can buy these audiobooks. They've got great apps. They've got great programs on there. It's $15 a month. And if you don't buy a book that month, they give you a credit, which is awesome. So some months I'll just forget that I've done it, and I'll have like 5 credits in there. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy like $500 worth of books for like $15 a month. It's amazing. So I sent some links to Audible as well. So go to Facebook or Twitter and check those out. There's a book, I didn't add it to the list because it probably isn't for everybody. It's a book by a man called Daniel Lapin. It's a book called Thou Shalt Prosper. And he's got a quote in there, and he says, business is life, and life is business. Master one, and you'll master the other. And what he was meaning was, business is nothing but person-to-person interaction. What can I do for you? What can I provide for you that you need and that is useful to you? How do I better communicate person to person with somebody? How do I better create relationships in my life? And so the more you grow yourself, the more you grow your ability and your capacity to do business. And so that's why I'm a big believer and big lover of devouring as many books as I can on the subject of business and life and all those kinds of things. Number 2. I said in a lot of promotional materials that we did that we were going to talk about accounting. We're going to do this very briefly, and we're going to try and make it as entertaining as humanly possible. But to have a general understanding of the paperwork side of business, we wanted to go over that very quickly. Okay? So everybody that has one, get a pencil or a pen and hold it up above your head. If you don't have a pencil or a pen, get your phone. Okay? And I want you to take it. Oh, there's only so many people playing along. I can see you. It's lit up. All right, very good. All right, and I want you to take it, and I want you to tap yourself on top of the head with it. All right, very good. Not that hard. Relax. Okay, just once. There's no extra fairy. Okay, now you own a business. Okay? In the U.S. of A., you own a business. That's it's easy as that. Okay? And everybody thinks there's some great barrier to going out and starting a business. There's not. There is no big list of paperwork you got to go fill out. None of that stuff. All right? Just you own a business. You now own the business of you. Now, if you want to do any banking under a different name, say you want to do it under a band name, or you want to do it under a record name, or you want to do it under something like that, and you need to open a bank account so people can write checks to whoever, Buffalo Bob and the Chips, you need to do these kinds of things right here, okay? So you need to go to the city and you get a program, or you get a form that's called a DBA. That stands for Doing Business As. And essentially what you're creating is an alias for yourself, okay? It costs $10 to $15. I paid $10 for it. Somebody told me now it's $15. And so that's all you have to do. You go to the city, you say, I need a DBA. They give you the form. It's one sheet. You write down your name, and you say, so-and-so, Jake Laughlin, is doing business as Buffalo Bob and the Chips. All right? You turn that in. You got your stuff. They'll give you a copy of it. They'll mail you another copy later. You bring it to a bank along with your ID, and you say, I need to open up a banking account, a checking account under Buffalo Bob and the Chips. That easy. Now anybody can write you a check to any band or anything that you need, and it costs you 10 to 15 bucks. That's it. That's all it is. All right? Now, as far as taxes are concerned, I would suggest everybody get an accountant, but a good accountant. Really good, high protein, high octane accountant. I save more money with an accountant than I do without, because I have a great one. And here's how you know if they're a great one. If you leave your accountant feeling like you know more than when you came in, that's the test of a good accountant, because they're sitting down with you and they're teaching you how the system works, and they're saying you're not paying this and this and this and this, and they leave you. They say you're paying this and this and this because, and here's how this works, and here's how to save some more money. And did you open up an ostrich farm? We can deduct that, and we do these kinds of things and work with you through the process. Okay, so I would encourage everyone to do that. My accountant that does DentonRadio.com, she only takes a little skim off the top of whatever the tax return is. So I don't even pay her out of pocket. Whatever money she saves me, she takes a skim off of that. That's it. I've never had to pay her a dime out of pocket. So find a good one, and that way they can keep your taxes straight. And then, your student loans are tax write-offs, all those kinds of things. Here's what's cool. Okay? If you're a musician and this is your business, you now own a business, and most of us own businesses that file losses. Okay? Would anybody in here claim that they make more money from music than they do in their day job? No. So you now own a business that you claim a loss on. What that means is you spend more money in your business than you take in, and you now have another write-off on your taxes. Huh? Okay, so this is why you need to get these tax things in place, because now your guitar is a tax write-off, which is awesome. Okay? Now, if you're making profit in a business, again, your guitar is a tax write-off, the money you spend at the bar is a tax write-off, the gas you spend to get to the gig, it's all a tax write-off. Okay, so you got to put these things together and get this stuff in place, so when you are making profit, you know what's a write-off and what's not, and how to get the filing together and these kinds of things, because right now you're claiming a loss. Last year, before the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Denton Radio claimed a loss. It was awesome. Our tax return was great, because we had gotten kicked in the teeth. And then now that we got the daggum Convention and Visitors Bureau giving us money, we're going to claim a freaking profit this year, and it's going to be awful. But thank you, don't leave us. But so now, if you're making profit in your business, I'm just going to tell you this right here. If you're a business owner that makes profit, the federal government doesn't like you anymore. Okay, and now I'm not going to get political or anything like that, but if you make profit in your business, the federal government wants 1/4 of it. So if you make $100, you only get to keep 75. If you make $200, you only keep 150. And so what you need to do is every time you're making profit and you cash a check, you need to take 1/4 of it and put it in a shoebox and forget about it. Because at the end of the year, Big Brother coming for it. All right. Because you're not, when you're a contract person with a venue, they're not taking or withholding taxes out like our day jobs do or anything like that. They're just giving you all of it. So the government decides that you need to be the person that keeps control of that, and at the end of the year when you file your taxes, they want their money. Now, all of us are claiming losses, so some people will say, well, wait a minute, I don't want to deal with all that stuff. Well, you're claiming a loss now, so it's a good thing, and it'll get your paperwork in place for when you are making profit, and you will, that you'll have everything in place already. Another form you need to become very familiar with is as you probably know, is what's known as a W-9. If somebody puts a W-9 in front of you, they're not trying to own you, they're not going to hurt you, it should not scare you. A W-9 is not a big deal. A W-9 means you are contract labor. It means that a venue is paying you to do something, but you're not in their employment per se. And so what happens is your contract labor, you fill out the W-9. At the end of the year, they're going to fill out what's known as a 1099. And that's what's going to tell the government, hey, I paid these people, because they're going to claim that as an expense on their taxes. That's really why it's all done. And now the government knows you were making money on those kinds of things. And so you need to get this stuff put in place when you're out there filling out W-9s and things like that to figure all that stuff out. And when you're going into quality venues and doing some quality high-level work, they're going to put W-9s in front of you. So get familiar with that kind of stuff. Okay? All right, so that is a very basic level of accounting. That wasn't so bad, was it? God, it's crickets. It's crickets. Yes.
I also want to remind folks, if you don't know about this yet, but the state of Texas has a really great program for musicians. It's actually called the Texas Music Office for the Easy River. And the state of Texas is the only state that offers a tax exemption for musical equipment with the purpose of using in audio recording.
Boom shaka.
So instruments, strings, shakers, whatever, if it can potentially be recorded, then it can be potentially tax exempt.
Exactly. And that's actually, there's a lot of really cool laws that are on the floor of the House right now. Thank you, Zach, by the way. That means thank you. There's a lot of bills that are on the floor of the House right now where they're saying that they will give venues tax exemption status on things like alcohol and music equipment expenses if they're booking bands X number of nights a week. I don't know, those things may not get passed or things like that, but Texas has actually been really great about trying to adopt the whole music thing. So thank you, Zach. I appreciate that because I'd forgotten about that entirely. So thank you. All right, so moving on to the third and final thing that I wanted to talk about. Okay? And this may not seem like the reason why you're here today, but for somebody, I think this is the reason why you're here today. Like him or not, we can all agree that Winston Churchill really ticked off Nazis. Right? And I think we can all agree that ticking off Nazis is a good thing. Where is he going with this? I'll get there. All right? So, Winston Churchill was not a very remarkable guy outside of, his high position and things. Before he got there, he really hadn't done much really all that spectacular. In fact, there was a journalist that constantly ripped on him all the time, and they were kind of in this whole back and forth thing, and she confronted him in public one time, and she said, "Winston Churchill, if I was your wife, I would bring you a drink with poison in it." And Winston Churchill looked back at her and said, "Madam, if I was married to you as your husband, I would drink it." Yeah. And so Winston Churchill really hadn't done anything super remarkable other than the fact that after bombing after bombing after bombing after bombing of Nazi attack, he never budged. So there was a university that had asked Winston Churchill right in the middle of the war, "Will you come and give the commencement speech at our university?" Really? And everybody went, "That's nuts. There's no way he's going to do it. But we'll go ahead and ask him anyways, and we'll just, and then we'll get Betty Crocker or whoever we can get to fill in for him when he says no." Well, much to everybody's surprise, Winston Churchill said yes, and said, "I'll come to the university and I'll give the commencement speech." And everybody went, "Sweet, okay, cool." So Winston Churchill comes to the graduation, and he's sitting there, and he really didn't say much at all. And it came time for him to speak. And Winston Churchill walked to the podium, and he took off his hat, and he sat down his cane, and he looked at the audience, and this is all he said. He looked at them, and he said, "Never quit. Never quit. Never quit. Never quit. Never quit. Never quit. Except in reasons of honor and good sense, never quit. Never quit. Never quit. Never quit." If I could say anything to the people in this room, it's that what you do matters. What you do matters a lot. Now, you may not see what it does to us, the people watching, but I can guarantee you that it does stuff. Maybe we've just had a hard day and we need to enjoy ourselves and hear something funny and fun and just kind of get through it and have a good cathartic moment. Or maybe, man, there's something really powerful going on in our lives and we got to deal with it somehow. Or maybe that we got to get over a breakup, or we got to get over a death, or we got to get the courage to go do something. There's things that happen inside of you when music starts happening. Music is never a compilation of beats and notes and rhythms and lyrics. Music is always the soundtrack to something greater. And music always affects, good music, which is what's done in this room, always affects the people listening in whatever way. And again, you may never see it, but it touches every one of us, and we can feel it. But I know music is a very discouraging thing to do. So I wanted to make sure I said this today. Never quit, never quit, never quit, never quit, never quit, never quit, never quit. Thank you. All right, Kevin. Kevin, if we could get Kevin Roden up to the stage. If everybody would give it up for Kevin Roden. Kevin Roden is one of the most influential men on the city council, and I saw a story about him not too long ago and talked about how one of his greatest goals was creating a sustainable economy for creatives in Denton. And when we started putting together this thing and saw the theme, we thought, how can we not bring Kevin here if we can get him to come? And we were blown away and incredibly honored that Kevin Roden decided to come and join us for this thing. So if y'all could give it up for him one more time.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, DentonRadio.com. Thank you, CVB. My schedule's really not that packed. I was bathing a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old before I came here, so that is my evening time most evenings. But it's great to be here, and Jake asked me to speak on what is the city doing for local music. It's a peculiar question. What is the city doing for local music? And as I thought about it, I kind of thought about, okay, think of the city as this corporate entity that exists to kind of manage things like wastewater systems and run power to houses and things like that. And I got thinking, what would it be like if the 7 folks that I sit with, my colleagues on city council, controlled the Denton music scene? How awful would that be? If we were somehow the tastemakers. I mean, I have great respect for my colleagues on council, but I am by far the youngest on council, and the demographics are pretty similar across the board there. So I'm not sure we want the city too much meddling from a certain perspective on what the scene becomes. Cities and culture in cities tend to grow much more organically out of the ingredients that are present within that city. A city government is one of those ingredients. And in a lot of cases, I think the best thing a city can do is kind of get out of the way and not make sure it's not creating obstacles, but also leveraging what we do have in the city. And so what I'm going to talk about might seem kind of from a different angle what you might expect. So jumping, this one, I guess. So notice I took the big capital C, made that a little capital C, and I took a different scene. So now we're not looking at the city council. Now we're looking at kind of the ingredients of a city. This is a snapshot of the last 35 Denton. So you're looking down from around Bell Avenue, kind of up towards the square. So what is the city doing for local music? Well, when you think about city as the composition of all the parts and the people and the institutions, well, the city's doing a lot for local music. Our music scene is actually quite vibrant. Think of the number of venues we have in the small, concentrated geographical area for our population. I think we're probably on the map in terms of the number of music venues per capita. I haven't seen comparisons to other cities, but I would guess we're probably pretty high up there. And so something's happening. Any given night you have great live music you can go to see, and a lot of times it's packed. So something is great is happening. We've got 2 universities, one in which boasts one of the best music programs in the world. And so if you think about the constant stream of musicians coming in there, lingering in this town for a few years, some of them, like myself, I was a jazz studies major, came here in 1992 to do jazz drumming, found out I needed to do something else. So I got into politics, studied philosophy for a while, but I lingered around. And that influence still remains in the city. And we've got thousands and thousands of people who have done that. And what sort of culture that breathes into a town when you have that continual influx of people coming in. And what musicians do when they're studying classical by day or jazz by day, but then they start tinkering with indie rock music or start kind of combining kind of the different disciplines. Or perhaps they leave music and start thinking about culture from a different perspective, like I did, for instance. And so beautiful things happen. So the ingredients of a university. You also have things that have nothing to do with the city that created great things for the city. You think about Rubber Gloves, Josh Bass, and thinking about creating this venue on the other side of the tracks where there's nothing else over there but like a concrete factory. And that's been an incredible boost for the local music scene and for people to come out. They've seen so many great musicians in there, and it's gotten a lot of bands to a great start. Think about Dan, creating Dan Silverleaf where it is on Industrial Street. When that went into the place, nothing was happening down there on Hickory Street. Industrial Street, no one was thinking about that. Cities, developers, we don't have vision most of the time. It's kind of the people, the creative people in our city have vision. He had vision, and now that kind of created a culture. Sometimes things happen in a city that have nothing to do with the intent of anyone for good, so to speak. So despite the city's inability to preserve the culture of Fry Street or preserve the history of Fry Street, and we saw the razing and the burning of Fry Street, which was, at my time when I came in college, that was the center of culture and music, certainly in Denton. Well, that burned down. And what happened was kind of this beautiful transferring to the east of where the center of culture was in town, just as there's this confluence of interest of revitalizing the downtown area. So now all of a sudden, the center shift. Well, the city really didn't have much to do with that. That was a crazy developer came in, wanted to destroy this thing, and people were looking for new creative opportunities, and it's just kind of a confluence of things came together, and the city hopefully leveraged that fact, but again, that's not city directed, that's more organically grown. We have a growing young professional class of people here. We have a downtown that's now a concentrated part of culture. So the question really for me as a policymaker for the city, I'm particularly more interested in the question, what is local music doing for the city? Not what is the city doing for local music, because our musicians are our best ambassadors for the city of Denton. They can get us on the map in a way that I never could by creating some ordinance in town. So to give you an example, you might recognize some of these publications. The city would never get published by UK's The Guardian, but we have a number of great acts that are birthed out of Denton and end up going across the world, really, and they get such a following and such an interest that we get people writing about us and our music scene. The Guardian, for instance, Denton is fast becoming an American musical heartland where something is happening. That's in Europe. Pace Magazine, 2008, Denton's the best music scene in the entire nation. Give yourself a hand. The New York Times, artists here don't know they're not supposed to be Bob Dylan. So when they start a band, they shoot for the moon. I love that quote. Talks about kind of the naive ambition of local artists in Denton. So they just go for it. They go for the gusto, and it works. Atlantic Cities did a story on us, actually written by a local guy, Michael Seaman. If you don't know this guy, he's writing for things like Atlantic Cities. He's becoming the national expert on the connection between cities and a music culture. He's writing his dissertation on it, and he's going to soon publish it, and you'll see him start to get some talks on things about it. So, really, when we talk about a music scene, we can't talk about it in isolation to just the music scene. A great music scene and a great music culture is dependent on so many other aspects and vibrancy within a town. That's why I think it's helpful to think about a local economy or a city in general, the kind of the way that we think about biological ecosystems. It's not like I can just focus on a certain fish and say, how do I make this fish successful? Well, in order to make that fish successful in the body of water it's in, it's got to consider the context, I got to consider its food sources, whether or not other environmental factors are affecting it, and what's feeding on it, what does it need to eat, all these other sorts of things. Same thing with music. So I think it's important to think about other things other than just music in order to support you as musicians kind of within the city. So a few things, just to be quick, about where I think we need to go as a city and some things we've already started doing to kind of help create that ecosystem and foster a culture that I think is beneficial for everyone, that I think will ultimately be beneficial for musicians. One is we need to bring more substantial jobs into the city. Fact of the matter is most of you guys probably have to have another job? How many of you guys work another job in addition to playing music? Everyone does, for the most part. Even the great bands coming out of this town who are touring internationally usually have to have some other source of income in order to make ends meet. So why not have jobs that meet their skill set? So many of our musicians are college educated. So many of them are connected into the tech industry. They're web developers, they're graphic designers, they're coders. They have some other skill that they've probably picked up along the line. And we just don't have a ton of those sorts of jobs to be able to sustain people so that they can stay in Denton and not just pull the bar tap and serve beers or serve coffee, but they can actually do something substantial. And that would probably give them a little bit more leisure to be able to pursue their art and their craft and their music in this case. So one of the things, and again, this is just leveraging what we already have, that I've begun exploring with the city and the chamber, is a creative economy initiative. And then when we say creative, we don't simply just mean the arts, music, artists in the proper sense, but we mean people kind of in creative type of jobs. And that could be, I'm a teacher. That could be, I build websites for a living or something like that. So it seems to me we have a bunch of people ready to be employed in this town, a lot of which are driving back and forth from Dallas and Fort Worth. And so we need to start showing that Denton is kind of the creative center of the region. And so in addition to having a great music scene, we also have a bunch of great minds. So come start your business here. Come set up your business here. And as we have more higher paying jobs, not only do our musicians have something they can do for a living, but we also have a higher sense of disposable income. Now you have folks who can go out to the shows and they're willing to drop $10 covers at shows and they're willing to pay $20 to the par that night because they've got that money. But you need folks with money because we can't just simply sustain a music scene on the back of college students. Their financial aid goes out by the time it's 2 months into the semester. So Downtown Innovation District is something that I've been pushing, and that is let's take advantage of this center of culture we've already created. And we've got great bars, we've got great coffee shops, we've got great places for people to hang out all times of the day. Why not, we're already starting to see some significant tech firms start to come into the downtown area because of that. Why not capture that? We've got an incredible spirit of entrepreneurship in the city that's taking place now. People trying to figure out, how do I take my idea and take it to the next level? I was just talking to a gentleman down here who has some great ideas, and there's hundreds of people just like him. Why don't we capitalize on the creativity and create a space for that? And so we can just kind of be the attractive spot in the DFW area for that. What goes along with that startup culture, and I already talked about that. One thing I've advocated we do, the city of Houston did this. They said, let's try and figure out what is the impact of our creative economy. Let's try and gather data on musicians, artists, web designers, computer programmers, coders, graphic designers, folks who are in all sorts of creative type professional fields. And let's try and figure out what does that mean economically for our city. The city of Houston did that, and it actually ranked them much higher than many other big cities across the nation. One way for us to figure out where do we go from here from a local economic standpoint is to just figure out a baseline. Where are we at right now, and how can we target certain things and get real strategic about how we're building a better local economy. So that's something that we're looking to do soon. And then finally, it's just leveraging what is great about this town. Again, I can't do anything from the city council chambers that's going to get us in the New York Times. Unless I did something really stupid like shut down the government or something like that. Maybe that could, but anything productive I can't. So we've got something here that's putting us on the map internationally. When 35 Denton was created in the minds of Chris Flemons, that's putting us on the map nationally and internationally. When we have bands like Brave Combo and Midlake and Sarah Jaffe and Centromatic going out across the country and going out and actually kind of flying the Denton flag wherever they go. Where are they from? Denton, Texas. Denton, Texas? Denton, Texas. It builds a buzz about your city. So the best thing we can do as a city is take advantage of that. So that's where I'm heading, where I think we need to go. But what I'd really like to hear at some point is from you guys in terms of what ideas you have in terms of what the city ought to do. So hopefully we have some time to banter later on today. So thank you guys very much.
So really quickly, we wanted to make sure that our marketing director got a little time to talk. Pat York came on with us a little later than when we got started. He came on with us about a year ago. And little known secret, DentonRadio.com never made a dime, never made 1 cent before Pat York became our marketing director. As soon as he joined up, all of a sudden we started making money. I took pictures of the paychecks as they came in. It was wonderful. Right? We had never made a dime before Pat York. So we said, this guy needs some time to talk about music and marketing. So he's going to talk real quick, and then we'll get into our panel.
Thank you, Jake. I'm going to talk real quick about it because I delayed this talk because I felt like it would tie in better with what our panel of experts and seasoned veterans have to say. My background has been in the rodeo business for the last nearly 30 years. The rodeo business and the music business is pretty much parallel. I mean, the same kind of marketing things happen. But what I wanted to talk about is something I've mentioned before briefly. Maybe you have had this experience before about going to a venue or seeing somebody and you saying to yourself, they're not that good. I'm better than that, or our band's better than that, but they keep getting these gigs. Well, maybe they're doing something you're not, okay? And one of the things that we have access to that we didn't have before when I first got into marketing was social media and the things that you can use for that. The pre-event, the pre-gig social media should be a big splash. Talking about who's going to be there, when it's going to be, what time you're going to be, and also talk about the cold beer. By the way, when you get hired, I'm going to disagree with Jake a little bit. You can consider yourself a beer salesman when you get hired to do a venue, or a food salesman. Because join in with that team, and you are getting paid kind of like an employee for the time that you're going to be there. So your pre-gig splash on the social media, whatever, should be big, you know. But guarantee it, your post. Sorry about that. Your post-gig social media should be even a bigger splash. But during that time, and this is something I've mentioned before, I was playing with a gal named Rachel Stacy. She's hired me once in a while to play harmonica with her band. And something that I did in the rodeo business with Western stores and in rodeo events was get to know all the people that were involved. So what I did with Rachel's show, we were playing down south of Fort Worth somewhere. I went and I found somebody that was serving the band their beverages, and she got us everybody's name, everybody that worked on the floor, the bartender, the manager, and everything. And at one point during the show, we called those people out, if nothing else, to embarrass them, but they've never had that experience before. So the bonding that you're doing with them is tremendous. Giving them recognition where instead of saying thanking your bartenders and waitresses, you know, that's a pretty common thing to do. It goes a long way when you want to get rehired. And also during the gig, if you'll mention how good the cold beer is or how good the nachos are or whatever, make a point of doing that. And then your post thing. In the past, what I would do, just before the last song, we want to get all the bartenders, wait staff together, managers, and we're going to take a stampede photo. And we did it with Rachel down there. We did it at the White Elephant. Everybody got set up on the bar, big picture, make a copy of that, put it on the Facebook page or your Twitter or whatever those things are. And also give one, if there's a brag wall, meaning a bunch of pictures on the wall, give one in a $2 frame, a black and white of the stampede photo, or even a picture of the band. But especially with the employees there, they'll appreciate that. Here's a case in point. This is a plaque that we made. We just got this the other day. It says, DentonRadio.com, thanks to North Texas Fair and Rodeo, in appreciation for your support of local Denton music, local Denton artists, and DentonRadio.com. This is the extra mile that you can go. instead of walking up to the manager and saying, okay, we're done, we're packing out of here, can we get paid? You know, that usually doesn't set too well at the end of the night. But after you've done a Stampede photo, thanked everybody, and personally thanked them. And I make a point of walking around and thanking everybody, shaking their hand and thanking them. But those kind of things, maybe that person or group that's you don't think is as good as you are that keeps getting the gigs, maybe that's what they're doing. Very briefly, I was watching a show the other day on AXS TV. It was the Guitar Center showcase, and Joe Bonamassa was on it. And he told a story about playing somewhere in Davenport, Iowa for 6 people. And he gave it his best shot. He said, you got to keep doing that. And then, like Jake said, don't ever quit. But those 6 people, the next time around, will tell 6 more. He said pretty soon, Joe Bonamassa was saying, you know, he's paid his dues, but always give it your best shot. My motto is you don't play to an empty room. There are no empty rooms. There may be 3 people in there. But I had a personal experience one time where instead of just clowning around and playing, my partner and I were playing, and one of the people in there got us a gig at Love and Warren, Texas, because he's good friends with Dusty Metters. He said, Dusty, you got to hear these guys. So there are no empty rooms. And I think that's probably what I want to leave you with, is giving it your best shot anytime, anywhere. An empty room, you're not playing to an empty room, you're playing to a room that needs to fill up with people and may fill up. It may fill up with 3 people, but one of those people might get you a gig somewhere else or hire you on. And I'm done with this speech. Jake, introduce our panel. Thank you, folks.
Seriously, y'all, Pat, he's the guy that made the money happen. He really is. And always has something incredible to bring to the table, whether we want it or not. But he really has. He's been an amazing, amazing contribution to DentonRadio.com, and we wouldn't have been able to get from A to B without Pat. He really was one of the big deciding factors in our success. So anything you can, if you get to talk to him later or have questions for him or stuff like that, he's a good one to know. Now, here's the part that I've been actively excited about. As you can see, there are tons of musicians on this stage. In fact, we had to finally limit the number at 10 because we were afraid that there were going to be more people up here than out here, and we said that's just nuts. So we're going to go ahead and limit it at 10, and actually we said we're going to limit it at 7. And then we thought, you know what, let's limit it at 8. And then we got to 9, and we said, forget it, let's go to 10, let's do it, why not? And so now we've got 10 very accomplished artists of very different styles, very different types of music, very different types of presenting themselves. And we thought between all of them, we can probably get some little gleams of some very, very cool information. You may look at this panel and go, why am I not on it? Like I said, we had a limited of 10, and we wanted to make sure that it was very different throughout the whole thing. So we got everybody from singer-songwriters on to bigger bands. Now, we're running low on time, so instead of introducing everybody individually, I'll just go ahead and let them get into their stuff. That work? And you can introduce yourselves? Is that good? Because we are like crazy behind, y'all. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started right over in this direction. And I told every musician, here's what you got. You've got a minute to say one thing, just one thing. If there's one thing you could tell your younger self just starting out, that would be one of the most important things you could tell him, just one. What would that one thing be? And all 10 of them have got a minute or two to say what they want that one thing to be. And then we also have Kevin up here too, so if you guys, when we open it up for Q&A, you can ask him questions as well. So, Mr. Zach Scoggins, if you would start us off.
Hey, I'm Zach Scoggins. I'm from the band 1140. I'm the vocalist. The one thing I would do, or the one thing I would tell my younger self is don't do it to make it. Seriously, just do it for the love of the music. If you're so passionate about it and you're extremely, your heart's in it 100% and you're making the music that you love, whether the rest of the world winds up loving it or not, you did something that you love. You created something that you love. So to me, I would tell my younger self, you know what? Just do what you love. The creator of The Simpsons, the guy, the Matt Groening or whatever, he said, just draw what you want to draw because it's what you want. And for me, it's all about the experiences. My best experiences in life have been on stage. One real quick story, we got a real quick show at this place in Dallas called Murphy's, and it was an all-black club. And we walked in, and it was like in, what's that college movie from the Animal House. It's like we walked in, and we were like, oh, Nikes. And we did not fit in. They were very short with us. They didn't want to help us or anything. And so we played our first, set, and we were like, oh my God, let's just play until they boo us. And then we go back in and we play a song, and I thought a fight was breaking out in this place. And we touched them. Like they were responding to our music, what it was we were playing, and they freaked out. And it was because of what we did. And it's because we were up on stage just giving it everything we had until they booed us off stage. But, just have fun with it and really believe in what it is you're doing. One last thing, I'm sorry. If your music is not your favorite music, then why are you doing it? That's what I have to say.
Right on. All right. My name's Ashley Gatta. I lead a band called Ashley Gatta and the Free People. And my advice is to set goals, to write your goals down, and to be okay with your goals changing. I know that my goals when I first started making music are different than my musical goals now, and I think that's a good thing. As your life changes and as your desires change, your goals are going to change. But I think it's always important to have them and to always be striving to achieve them. And alongside that, I think that it's important every step of the way when an opportunity comes along for you to ask yourself, if I take this opportunity, is that going to bring me a step closer to my goal, or is that going to be a sidetrack? So I think that there are a lot of times that as musicians we feel like we need to take every opportunity that comes along, and that's simply not the case. You really need to ask yourself if it's something that's going to help get you closer to your goal, or if it's something that's just going to maybe be a stumbling block along the way. It might not be an obvious path. You're certainly going to have some diversions along the way, but yeah, that's my advice.
My name is Bone Doggy, and I play xylophone for a band called Grandpa's Now a Fungus.
It's not true.
Actually, my name is Bone Doggy, and I am the lead singer-songwriter for a band called Bone Doggy and the Hickory Street Hellraisers. And if you have met the Hellraisers, they are, certainly. If I was going to give anybody, I do 2 open mics here in town. I do one on Wednesday night, by the way, at 2 Charlie's. We'll be over there tonight after all this is over with. I also do one Sunday nights at Abbey Underground. And the open mic at Abbey Underground, we have bands come up and play. And these are new bands. These are guys that have not ever been on stages together or whatever. They're brand new or new to the area or whatever. And a lot of times they'll get up and play. I'll give them a special spot. They'll get a good 30, 40 minutes. Then we'll go outside, we'll talk. And I will critique them very diplomatically. But I think 2 of the things that I say most often, and I seriously mean this, when you're up there on stage, I know you're petrified, especially if you're new, but engage your audience. Your audience wants to come into your house. They want to love you. Love them, and you can make a connection. You do that, and you're going to be golden every time. If there's 5 people there, if there's 3 people there, if there's 100 people there, eye contact, never talk down to them. Watch your filthy little mouths. I'm saying that right now. If you can imagine Bone Doggy saying that, but it's true. But never talk down to your audience. Treat them as they are special. Treat them as somebody that you care about, right? Okay, and respect them. The second thing is, if I'm paying money to see a group, I don't want to see somebody that looks like they just walked out of Starbucks or out of Jupiter House. Dude, you're on stage. You're up there as an entertainer. Dress. It's like God made the thrift store. Me and Jeff Barnes, we're wearing $25 worth of clothes right now. for the hats. These are expensive. These are expensive. But seriously, you're out there, you're a performer, you're an entertainer. Put some thought into your look. The look and engaging the audience. That's what I have to say.
Hello everyone. My name is Marissa Sherwood. I'm a vocalist for a band called Backwater Opera. And first of all, picking one thing to tell a group of musicians to remember is virtually impossible, but I did. Jake told me that I was chosen for this panel because of my classical background, and that's where I came from. 15 years of classical training, and which brings me to my advice. I'd like to talk about streamlining communication, particularly streamlining intra-band, within your own band communication, making sure that everybody is on the same level of language. And if that means that your bass player needs to describe something to the guitar player by saying, you know, the part that goes do-do-do-do-do-do-do, that's great. That's one way of communicating. But if the three other people in your band are not communicating in the same way to you, then there's going to be a blockade no matter what. So the classical part of me is going to tell you to learn your theory, because music theory is one of the only universal languages that can be spoken amongst all musicians in the entire world. Your oral skills, your theory, your math that goes behind it. Having your own way of communication within your band is a wonderful thing, and you should have that, but then you have a language that only your band speaks. You've got your own island that speaks one language. So learn your theory, stick to it, because if everybody learns theory, everyone can communicate, even if you are a solo artist. As a solo artist, you are not actually a solo artist. You're working with every musician that you ever come into contact with, and to have one language to speak to them is going to do wonders for your career. Thank you.
Good advice.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Barnes. I play horns and harps for Brave Combo and some other bands. I wrote a letter about passion to my younger self, and it's short, thankfully. You have a passion for music. How fortunate you are. Everyone needs a passion. Many people don't have one and seek fulfillment through artifice instead of art, pressing the pleasure button over and over again, even after it has ceased to function. Sex, drugs, alcohol, video games, some of these are places you might want to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there. Even fame and money are not fulfilling. The former is fickle and will break your heart. The latter is only a metaphor for something else. But you have a passion for music. If passion drives, let reason hold the reins, Ben Franklin said. So use your head, study it, court your muse, learn it, then forget it. If you don't learn it, you are a dilettante and an amateur. A dilettante is someone who delights in something. An amateur is someone who loves something. What's wrong with that? These are good things. We should all be dilettantes and amateurs. But if you don't grow, you become stagnant and lose your original passion. But if you learn it and don't forget it, it becomes so hidebound with the rules and mechanics of it that you still stagnate and lose your passion. You become a very bad thing, a pedant. You may destroy your own students' passion for music when the time comes for you to pass on what you've learned. I forgot to mention there will be a lot of people who will try to discourage and even destroy your passion. Some of them will even be your teachers and fellow musicians. Why? I don't know. Let's not think about it as depressing. Instead, let's lose ourselves in the ethereal and ideal realm of music, pure mathematics and sound, and then find ourselves again. Watch the effect it has on people's emotions. Alexander Pope says the proper study of mankind is man, and we'll have plenty of opportunity for that. The difference is we can solve an equation and resolve a chord, but there are no solutions nor resolutions for the human condition. But still, musician, compose thyself. We're happy in here. Court your muse. She will love you and bestow great gifts upon you. That is a promise. and she may even earn you a living, but probably not.
Yeesh. Hi, my name's Jake Steinberg. I'm in a group called Star Party, and I'm also on A-Dub Entertainment label with Jacko Suede. What's up, Jacob? I'm kind of the opposite of our council member. I'm an import musician that once was a college student studying sociology, and now I can't leave. I'm in 2 amazing bands, and I'm trying to make it work as a musician. And I'm living my dream, but right now it's really hard, and that's why I came here tonight, to address some of those issues. And it feels really good to be in this kind of company with everybody working towards the same goals. So hopefully we'll be able to continue that kind of dialogue like we're doing tonight.
Hello, my name is Ryan Hall. I play with a band called Woody's Rampage. I moved up here 2 years ago from New Orleans, Louisiana. And growing up, I've been playing music since I was 13 years old professionally. I used to play Bourbon Street 6 nights a week. And one thing that playing Bourbon Street 6 nights a week taught me is that there's a hustle that you have to be a part of. You can't be ashamed of being a performer. Buy a 50-foot long guitar cord, walk out of the club, lay down in the street and play guitar behind your head. Anybody who's ever came to one of my shows knows I will do that. It draws attention to yourself, and visibility as an artist and as a musician is the most important thing. And again, it's a part of that hustle. Do the same thing with your shirts. After you finish your set, go walk around with a t-shirt. Just ask. The worst thing that a person can tell you is no. They can't put you in jail. They can't file a lawsuit. No. But most of the times they'll say yes. Now, when it comes to being a performer, always carry that around with you. I carry a harmonica in my pocket all the time. And because I carry a harmonica in my pocket and I know how to play it, I've been on 3 TV shows. I even did a soundtrack with a harmonica for this show called Killin' and Grillin'. I was in the middle of East Texas. I heard there was a television show, and I decided, why not give it a shot? I might get on TV. I did. Ended up recording a whole soundtrack for this television show. It aired. I got a paycheck. So that's all a part of the hustle. That's what I got to say.
My name is Richard Gilbert. I'm a singer-songwriter, and what I wanted to talk about is ego. I learned about 9 years ago that you have to leave your ego at the door when you go into play at a coffee house or play at a club, and don't think that everybody that is coming into that venue is coming to hear you play. Don't try to overpower your audience. If you have that couple that's sitting right next to you at the stage and they're talking loudly, and it will affect you as a musician, because you'll start concentrating on that instead of what you're supposed to be doing, which is your job to be playing your music. And what I used to try to do, and that's why I say I learned this about 9 years ago, I would try to sing louder than the people that were talking. And the louder they would talk, or the louder I would play, the louder they would talk. So that wasn't working. So I learned that you just do your job. Go in there, sing your songs. Don't try to overpower the people that are around you. And you'll still get people listening to you, and you'll still have people that care about your music. One time I did this, I was playing at a coffee house in Fort Worth called 4 Star Coffee Bar. And there was a couple that was just driving me nuts. And I was it was supposed to be a quiet song, and I was playing it very loudly. And anyway, I finished my set, went down and sat down, was talking to my son about it, and I said, man, that couple was just driving me crazy. I couldn't even hear myself sing up there. And he said, Dad, they were talking about you, and they were talking about how good you were and how much they enjoyed your music. So that's where I kind of learned my lesson, and to just keep my mouth shut and do what I'm paid to do, and play my music.
I'm Carl Finch with Brave Combo, and actually one of the things I was going to say is what you were saying, is one thing I learned when I was too naive to know any better, and I still am in a way, is don't be afraid to ask questions, don't be afraid to ask for things, and you might really be surprised what people are actually willing to do for you and how they'll help you out in ways you can't imagine. One of the best examples I have for that is that we were going to be playing in New York, and it was over the Thanksgiving weekend, and we had a Thanksgiving day off, and we were playing a club in New York the night before, and then probably a club the night after, and so I just thought, hey, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is on Thanksgiving in New York. So I thought, man, we can walk around and play. Jeff, plays a bunch of horns. I play accordion, and our bass player at the time played tuba, and then our drummer at the time played a washboard and just kind of, percussion instruments. So we could leave the stage and walk around. We could play and then put those things on and leave the club if we wanted to. But we thought, well, maybe we can do this. So I just called Macy's. I just called Macy's in New York City. I said, who's in charge of hiring the entertainment? That's all I said. And they said, oh, it's so-and-so on the 8th floor. And I said, I couldn't believe they actually told me that. But they said, oh, put me through. And so I actually reached the guy that hired all the entertainment for the parade. And I said, don't listen to what I have to say. I said, we're a rock band that plays polkas, and we're going to be playing like a punk club the night before. But we're here, and we can dress up and play tuba and horns and stuff, and we can march in the parade. He kind of silenced. He said, oh, okay, well, send me some music. And I did, and within a week, he said, oh, I like this. And so we found ourselves right there, right, Jeff? Right between Dionne Warwick and Donald Duck or something. Woody Woodpecker, yeah. But it just blew my mind that's, I guess no one ever asked him, or no four-piece polka band from Texas ever asked him before. So that's just like, and in the same way, I sort of the whole concept of the band kind of grew from this idea of looking for what isn't there. And if I can say one thing, I think that's it, is like, look for what's not there. And there's a whole lot of stuff that's not there right now. You just have to look for it. I can't point anybody in a direction. I can only point myself, but just the idea of playing polkas in a rock club, that didn't exist. So we thought, well, let's do that, and then where can we go from there? Staying true to that concept. And just one more thing, whether you're an artist or whether you're like a person who's trying to promote what you do, you have to kind of decide what your goal is. And if you're an artist, you've really got to stay in this cosmic realm. And if you don't know what that is, look for that. But you have to stay there. As an artist, you have to stay there, or your life as an artist is very short. From a promotional point of view, you've kind of got to, think outside the box, but think way outside the box. And especially now, even though, you can have a million, you can garner a large group of people over the internet, but you want it to be longer than just a flash, So that's all I have to say.
My name is Matt Grigsby. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I host the open mic over at the Banner Bistro on Thursday nights. I made all these notes, and I did all this research, and I'm not even going to use any of it. But the advice I'm going to give you is something it's useful for your everyday life as well as your music industry life, and that is, do not take anything personally. In this line of work, you have to have thick skin, and you have to have an even thicker liver. And, for every 10 emails you send, you might get one response. And you're always going to have these bookers who book you, but they don't really pay attention to what they're doing, and they book your folk act between two metal bands. It's going to happen. And there's always going to be this drunk guy who really likes your music, but decides he can sing it better than you, and he's going to sing at the top of his lungs during your whole show. And that's just going to happen, and you cannot take it personally. You just got to do what you do and keep going. And don't just let it slide right off your back, because there's another day right behind it. And you're going to have great shows, you're going to have terrible shows. And you just make your list. You're like, oh, I had a great time at this venue. I'll do that again. Hopefully they'll have me back. I had a terrible time at this venue. Not top of my priority list, And I've played in biker bars. Another thing I just want to say, and this is off topic there, but bands get in the state of mind, and they're like, I live in this town and it has so many venues. It does not have to be a venue. It does not have to be a bar. Of course, there's wine bars and stuff like that you can play. There's also, you can do corporate events. There are people getting married every weekend, and people don't want to do the common church wedding anymore. They will hire a metal band to play their wedding. This happens. And if you hear your buddy has a corporate event, oh, y'all are having a big party, you had this many sales, how would you like to have a reggae band be the entertainment, And that happens, and that's a good way to make money. So keep your mind open to that, and don't take anything personally, because sometimes they will say no. That's how we got.
I think I do keep them kind of separate, because I kind of look at the artist side as this separate thing anyway, and then how do I push that thing? One is one's right side brain, one's left side brain. Like applying strategies, and you think outside the box in both ways, but you really do have to apply this cosmic element to being an artist, or it just goes by too fast. And you have to connect with something bigger than yourself with being an artist. And that is way bigger than anything we're talking about here tonight. To be part of that is, in my opinion, is being in touch with something that's much larger than just selling your music. On the other hand, we're talking about making money, and you have to apply strategy to that. And that sometimes really has nothing to do with the artistic side at all. That has to do with what people have been saying, what you were saying about putting yourself out there, what you're saying about, letting stuff roll off your back, because people are going to say terrible, terrible things, and you have to keep that in perspective. So I guess to answer your question, yeah, they're separate, and you kind of examine them differently, and they grow differently.
There is a musicians union for Dallas and Fort Worth. For much larger venues, yes, it's out there. From the last I checked, single membership is $250. If the band joins the union, it's $150 per person. It's a year's membership. These are regular, legitimate unions with payment plans and insurance plans and stuff like that. They're out there. There's no, I'm speaking for myself here. I'm not sure at this point there's a need for a union here in Denton yet. Does that make sense to what you're saying?
There is actually a national musicians union called the American Federation of Musicians. It's primarily for classical musicians like symphony workers, et cetera, because they are all contracted workers. However, with the new influx, I know this is kind of my theme tonight, the whole classical thing, but with the influx of classical music, we've got things like the Goat Radio sessions that some of you may have heard of with Yo-Yo Ma and Chris Thiele, bringing contemporary and classical together. That's kind of opening up the AFM to a lot more contemporary music. So in certain cities, DFW is one of them as far as is one of the metroplexes that I know of, but don't quote me on this, of course, because I'm not with them. But they do have, if you are a student or part of a band, then some of those fees and dues will be not forgiven, but not required of you. So I don't know too much more about it, but I do know that it is called the American Federation of Musicians.
And I'll tack on that a little bit as well. the venues already, there's already a strike against a venue booking a local musician and paying them already. BMI, ASCAP, CSAC, these guys, if you do live music, you're paying a fee, and if you play a radio station, you're paying another fee. So there's a lot of venues around town that don't want to do live music at all. And they'll do live music, and they'll tell ASCAP they're not doing it. And ASCAP started hiring college students to go in places with an iPhone. And then when a venue says we're not having music, they'll mail them DVDs of music happening in their place. And they'll come at them and come at them and come at them for money, which is a good thing to get musicians paid. But I think what Bone Doggy was saying is that in a way, there's certain parts of Denton that just aren't ready for it yet. If the music doesn't make financial sense for a venue yet, then it's hard to go to a venue and say you need to be paying for the music, because it's worth paying for, but it's hard to say that unless the venue can say it affects my bottom line. And some of the venues have great foresight to say, I'm going to pay people not based upon their crowd, but based upon their talent, because now I can become a venue that has great talent, and that will eventually spread. But that's going to be difficult when somebody's looking at their profit and loss statement for somebody to say, I'm going to pay, or I'm going to pay better, if the music didn't bring them something. And so organically over time, I think you're going to get to see this grow with things like what we're trying to do with Denton Radio. When we go to a venue and we say, do you want, they come to us and they say, we want free music. Sorry, it's not going to happen. The only time we'll bring you a performer to play for free is if you're a venue like Dan Silverleaf that's really, really hard to book. We'll go there and he gives us a Tuesday night once a month, and we'll bring in bands that he wouldn't normally book to try and say, you need to be booking these guys, you need to be paying these guys. And that's our only exception to that, is we'll do that in paying venues. And then if a new venue calls us and says, we need bands, say, the only way we're bringing them to you is if you pay them, or if they're in a position to get paid by associating with you. And so the more efforts you see like that, the more you're going to see those things happen. However, we can't just start barreling down doors and saying you need to pay $300 a night, because they'll just go, whoa, wait a minute. And they just won't book music. So what we're trying to do is get in there gradually and say, okay, well, you can't pay them a lot, but you're not going to get them for free. What can you pay? And after they prove themselves, how do we now increase this over time? Because Denton doesn't have that music infrastructure just yet. It will, as long as we continue to push it. It's just going to take a little bit of patience and moving it step by step. And I just hope, I want everybody to push in a direction where everybody gets paid, but I don't want people to get so impatient that they attack a venue for not paying, or not paying a lot of money, and then they just say, well, we're going to cancel music altogether. I think that would hurt music in the end.
Although, let me one more point, we should probably move on to another question, is to help with what you're talking about. You're playing a gig, 2:30 in the morning, stay sober, pay attention, and make sure they pay you what they told you were going to pay. It's up to you. It's up to you, at that point. Potentially, that's the thing, is we're all hoping that, my gosh, we're hoping to heaven that it gets to the point to where we have to do that. So cool. That's why God made other musicians.
That's right.
I got backups.
Is it cool if I take this real quick? We had a drummer that passed away about a little over a year ago. And I called Bone Doggy, and we had a battle of the bands. He passed away right before a battle of the bands, and I called Bone Doggy. I said, Bone Doggy, what do we do? He said, you play that shit. Oh, sorry.
I didn't actually say that. Yes, I did.
He said.
I'd say it again.
And he physically passed, the day or 2 days before, or the day of, or something like that.
Yeah.
And we went and we played it, and it sucked. I mean, it was what it was. It was what it could be. But we soldiered through it. And at the beginning of 1140, there were a bunch of guys who had no drive. They like to just get messed up and have 40 real minutes of practice, and it wasn't even practice. It was just playing a few songs. And as one guy who had drive, I kept going. And I realized, he was talking about the cosmos and everything. If you believe and everything like that, it will provide for you. And if you just keep going, you'll run into musicians. And if your passion just bleeds out of you, other people will see that, and musicians will be attracted to that, and they'll want to play with you. Don't ever give up. Like he was saying earlier, don't ever give up. But, you know, like he said, there are a ton of musicians in this town, and you will find more.
He's up on the square right now beating the snot out of a set of drums.
And just real quick to that effect, because I've had some experience with having to work with people who didn't take the task as seriously as the rest of the group was doing. I treat my band members as though I am in relationships with them, like romantic relationships. And take that with a grain of salt. But if you are with a person, this is just my own opinion, if you are with a person...
That means you bitch at them all the time, right?
If you're with a person with the hopes that they will hopefully change someday, maybe they'll change, then maybe that's the first sign. That's all.
That's funny.
Anybody?
You dirty old man.
Keep a long list of phone numbers. That's the best thing. I can't tell you how many. I have probably 80 people in my phone, and I have to do it city by city, too. That's the best. That's the only way I keep up, because I have people call and say, I can't do this gig. Can you have somebody fill in? I just have a long list of phone numbers. I get to the point where I don't have to worry. I have my set list ready to email them. I have a list of songs, and I have samples of the songs. So they'll have an idea of what we're supposed to play. Yes.
Heck yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. There needs to be this is the biggest issue, because draw in these clubs, every one of us has played at Haley's on a Wednesday night to where there's no people. And the biggest thing that would help us out is all musicians here, and to get us to the point where we could have a draw at a lot of these clubs, if we could, say, play the Rock and Rodeo, and we could open up for, if my buddy Honey opened up for Alien Ant Farm and Fuel, that got them a lot of exposure. Getting these national acts in and being able to open up, get your most talented bands in there, open up for these bands, have people in that venue already, pack the house, and then say when they're playing at Andy's 3 weeks from now, people will be there because I saw them opening up for, I don't know, Fuel, or if you want to think bigger, Pearl Jam. I don't know. But that is the best thing that could happen to musicians in this town. It would be the best thing to help build up the scene and get it really vibrant, is to book shows with some national acts.
Yeah, and I we've been talking about this, wanting to put together benefit shows. We said, okay, where can we get a big venue with a great big parking lot that'll do alcohol and has a great sound system and has all 4 of those areas and is in town? Dang, where is it? And honestly, I think we should kick it to Kevin. What barriers are in place to hinder that, or what benefits are coming that could help something like that be created?
Well, I mean, it's going to take some private person or entity who has the money and feels like there's a good business model to be had for a city like our size. So it's not like somebody's just going to create it out of love for the music scene. I mean, there's got to be a viable plan in place. Now, I will tell you there's significant interest from folks. I've talked to developers who are interested in doing it. We're going to see the Hive that you saw come online for 35 Denton is in the process of being developed, that whole area. So that has the potential of standing close to 1,500. So, a city similar to our size, that's probably a good model to look at in terms of given vision for this thing, is Athens, Georgia. And they have at least a couple venues that are above 800 capacity. You're able to draw in significant acts that way. I will say in the interim, I think if people could start conversations we have some bones in town that we can utilize. If you guys remember, a couple years ago, Wilco came through, opted to go outside of Dallas and played at UNT at the Auditorium Building, which is really a beautiful venue. It's being redone, so I don't know what it looks like now. But that used to be the place where musicians in the 20s would come through town and play. It was just kind of the place, what you did. That could be a great place for not only music, but indie movies or something like that. But from what I understand, they had a horrible time working with the UNT staff for that. And of course, you don't have the alcohol component, so there need to be a relationship forwards. I think if you think of the auditorium at TW as well as a possible venue in the interim, we would just need the right promoters to connect with the universities to make those sorts of things happen. But I think we're going to see it. We just got to find a good business model for it.
Carl, you want to grab that one first?
Yeah, in our case, the music kind of took care of that right away, you know, because we start most of our shows with a polka. And it's, I mean, that, believe it or not, that was shocking 34 years ago. But you know, that's all part of the strategy too. I remember when the whole I don't even know where we are now with pop music exactly, but I remember, I mean, maybe 10 years ago, it just seemed like there seemed to be like a million great pop bands. I mean, like, wow, everybody's writing really great songs, everybody's playing really well, it's all produced really well. And I was, you know, thinking like, man, how do you find a diamond in this rough, you know? When everybody's just super fantastic and they're all hiring like super fantastic, great songwriters. There's like 4 or 5 people that are writing all the songs maybe. But, you know, and I mentioned the corn dog thing that we did, you know, I mean, that's what we used to call where we would walk around and acoustically. And that was because it was a term we got from doing this at the state fair. But, you know, when you're thinking, like trying to think outside the box, like when he was asking a minute ago about the difference between the promotion and the artistic side, sometimes it's like seizing moments, you know, and it can be like just for that moment where you're just doing it because you just have to do it. We were playing a show in Holland one time, and the promoter did a great job except for a couple of nights, and this night we were playing a club that was just full of drunk 15 and 16-year-olds. I don't know how it happened, right? That's what it was, right? Really drunk, really
like
drunk.
Beating.
It was packed too, and so and they're all Dutch, and you know, we're like, what are we doing here? So we thought, wow, they're not going to understand this at all. I mean, first of all, they have their own polka heritage there, and so what are we going to look like to these 16-year-olds anyway? And they're drunk. And so we we decided to play Christmas music, and it was in the summer, but we knew they would know some Christmas songs, and we just stayed with it. And there was this arc in the evening, and at first, like, yeah, everybody was singing along. We even got people on stage singing along. After about 3 or 4 songs, they start yelling at us, "You're playing Christmas music," and we go, "Yeah, we know it. We're not stupid." But we couldn't figure out any way to relate, you know, and so sometimes you just do it because this moment is going to be something I'll never experience again. I'm going to make the most of it. And it's like for your like video recorder in your head, you know, that's what it's for.
Is really funny is I relish the time when we are just so left field from everybody else that's playing that night. We stick out like a sore thumb, and we jump on that with both feet. Just recently, for a lark, we entered a battle of the bands. I hate battle of the bands. We were so weird and so odd, and the only ones that were actually color coordinated, that we won. Just for the simple fact is we were stuck with, and God bless them, White Bison was down there with us. And a shout out to my boys from here in Denton, White Bison, great bunch of guys, good players. Everybody else we played with was a typical rock and roll band. And then the Hellraisers get up there, and we're all done up. We're done to the nines. We're playing polkas, and we did do a couple of the polkas. We do a lot of gypsy. We were killing people off right and left and things like that, you know. So being different from everybody else and trying to fit in is not always such a good thing. If you're stuck in that position, you get up, you do your thing, and you do it on purpose. There you go. And Christmas songs.